Julie Andrews is famous for playing Maria in The Sound of Music. She had never played the guitar before the movie shoot. It was important for her to learn the basics before she could sing and play the guitar in her part. But it was really hard for her to sing and play the guitar at the same time. It was hard to deal with everything when the cameras were running. She sometimes took a small sip of Austrian schnapps, a strong alcoholic drink, to calm down before shooting some of the guitar scenes. It helped her feel better. Christopher Plummer, who played Captain Von Trapp, also learned how to play the guitar and sing to get ready for the part. But even though he trained, his singing and guitar playing weren't in the final cut of the movie. They hired an expert singer and guitarist to re-record those parts, and the voices of those people were used in the movie instead. 19. Kim Carruth really couldn't swim. In real life, something very scary does happen when the Von Trapp family is in a rowboat and it flips over. The little girl who played Gretel, the youngest child, Kim Carruth, didn't know how to swim. Everyone got wet when the boat flipped over. Maria was played by Julie Andrews, and her job was to grab Gretel and help her get out of the water safely. Julie fell backwards when the boat flipped though, so she couldn't get to Gretel in time. In response, Kim Carruth took in a large amount of water. She got sick from it and had to throw up because of it. Okay. And Heather Mintzes, who played Louisa, an older girl on the show. Kim was okay afterward, thank goodness, but it was a really scary scene on set. Number 18. Christopher Plummer didn't like making the movie. Chris Plummer, who played Captain Von Trapp, didn't really like working on The Sound of Music. He didn't like how sweet or sad the movie was. As a joke, he called it things like the movie S&M or The Sound of Mucus instead of The Sound of Music. As they filmed, he wasn't happy. In order to deal with how he felt, he ate and drank a lot. He put on a lot of weight during the shoot because of that. And he added so much weight that the people who make costumes had to change his clothes to fit him better. In the past, he said bad things about the movie, but now he says he understands why people loved it so much. Here's the next mistake that came as a surprise and made it into the movie. 17. The movie did not use the real Von Trapp family home. You can still see the house where the Von Trapp family lived, but it's not the one in the movie. In the movie, the big house is made up of two different buildings put together. One showed the front, and the other showed the back. The scenes inside the house were not shot in a real one. They were filmed on sets made just for them in Hollywood. The famous gazebo where the video for 16 going on 17 was shot was also fake. It was built just for the movie. After that, it was moved twice more, and now fans can see it at Hellbrunn Palace in Salzburg, Austria. While Maria lived as a nun at Nannberg Abbey, the movie's courtyard wasn't shot at the real abbey. The movie wasn't filmed at the real abbey either. An artist named Boris Levin made a copy that looked so real, right down to the stones and windows that were used. A lot of people still think that those scenes were filmed in real life. Finally, the scene where the Von Trapp family hides from the Nazis in a cemetery wasn't shot in Austria. A studio set was built on the Fox movie lot in Hollywood and used to record the whole scene, even though some Salzburg tour guides still say it was shot there. 16. Edelweiss wasn't a well-known song in Australia. It might look like the song Edelweiss is a traditional Austrian folk song or even the country's national anthem, but it's not. For the Broadway show The Sound of Music, it was written in the United States. The well-known musical duo Rodgers and Hammerstein wrote all of the music in the show that has an Austrian feel to it. Edelweiss was the last song they worked on together. Oscar Hammerstein passed away in 1960, only 9 months after the first performance of The Sound of Music. Many people around the world thought Edelweiss was part of Austrian culture or history, even though it's not a real Austrian song. 15. Maria gave away her movie rights. There was a German movie producer in 1956 who wanted to make a movie from Maria von Trapp's book. He made her an offer of $10,000 to buy the rights to her story. Maria asked if she could also get a cut of the money made from the movie. But the director told her that German law said movie companies couldn't pay royalties, which are extra money made from sales, to people who weren't German citizens. Maria was already an American citizen at that point. Maria believed him and signed the contract, but she didn't know that she was giving up all the rights to make a movie about her life. After a few weeks, the director came back and offered her $9,000 in cash if she agreed right away. For the Von Trapp family, this was a big amount of money. They had never made that much money from singing before, so she took the deal. Maria later found out that the manager had lied to her. France did not have that kind of law. For a small amount of money, he had tricked her and taken full control of her story. Even though Maria and her family were mistreated, Rodgers and Hammerstein, who wrote The Sound of Music, still gave the Von Trapps a small amount of the money they made from the play and movie. It wasn't required of them, but they did it out of kindness. Still, it wasn't even close to what the Von Trapp family could have made if they had kept the rights. But Maria didn't feel angry about it. Afterward, she said that the happiness and hope the play and movie brought to people all over the world was worth a lot more than money. 14. Maria was hired to teach just one kid. Movies often show Maria von Trapp as a governess for 7 kids at the start of her life. This is not true. In fact, she was hired in 1926 to help teach just one child. The daughter of Georg von Trapp, a retired Navy captain, got very sick with scarlet fever. Her name was Maria. The sickness that had killed his wife 4 years before was still going around. He told him that his daughter could no longer walk the long stretch of about 4 miles to school. So, Georg went to Salzburg's Naumburg Abbey to ask for someone to come teach her at home. At the church, they chose Maria Ostakochera, who is 21 years old. She went to a college for teachers in Vienna, and was also living at the abbey because she was sick. It was planned that she would teach the girl for only 10 months before she became a nun. But as we all know, things didn't go as planned. Maria stayed for a lot longer than planned. Number 13 is choosing Julie Andrews as Maria. Screenwriter Ernest Lehman had only one actress in mind for the lead part of Maria in The Sound of Music. That actress was Julie Andrews. At first, when director Robert Wise came on board, he didn't agree with him that she was perfect for the part. He liked Grace Kelly, who was now Princess of Monaco and no longer worked as an actress, and Shirley Jones, who was famous for her parts in musicals. On the other hand, things changed when Robert Wise saw early video of Julie Andrews' movie Mary Poppins, which hadn't come out yet. It didn't take him long to agree with Lehman that Julie Andrews was the best choice for Maria. He liked her voice, looks, and charm. Andrews was interested in the part, but at first she wasn't sure if she should take it. Like some parts of the play, she didn't want the movie to seem too sweet or ridiculous. But Lehman and Wise both agreed with her. They tried to make the story seem more real and honest. This made Andrews feel better, so she chose to take on the job. She agreed to star in the movie for $225,000 with 20th Century Fox, which was a lot of money back then. In the end, hiring Julie Andrews turned out to be a great pick. She gave one of the best performances in movie history as Maria, which was a big part of making The Sound of Music the great movie it is today. 13. Von Trapp loved his kids very much. The movie The Sound of Music made Captain Georg von Trapp seem a lot less warm and loving than he really was. For the real Von Trapp children, seeing their dad as cold, strict, and far away made them sad. It's true that he called his kids with a whistle. Each child had their own sound, so they knew when he was calling them. He also put them in clothes that looked like they were worn by sailors. He did not make them march around the directors didn't agree with her though. It's not over yet. Check out what came next. Number 11. In the movie, Father Nur was changed. One important person in the real story of the Von Trapp family was left out of The Sound of Music. When the Von Trapp's bank failed during the Great Depression in the 1930s, they lost a lot of their money. They started renting out rooms in their big house to make ends meet. There was a Catholic priest named Father Franz Wasner living there. Father Nur realized the family was really good at music after hearing them sing. They hired him as their musical director, and he worked with them to improve their singing. Maria von Trapp once said that he turned them into a real singing group little by little. Because he showed them the way, the family became professional singers. Father Nur even got out of Austria with the Von Trapp family, and went on tour with them in Europe and the US. He was called the vocal force behind the Trapp family singers by a writer named Tom Santoro. But the movie did not have him in it. Instead, they made up a character called Max de Weiler to stand in for the person who helped them with their songs. The filmmakers didn't include Father Wasner in the story because they thought that having a priest as their music teacher would take away from Maria's character. 10th, Maria was shown to be subdued. In time, Maria Augusta Kochera changed her name to Maria von Trapp. She was born in January 1905. Both of her parents died when she was very young, leaving her without a family. After that, she was sent to live with an uncle who was known to be very mean and painful. Maria went to a college for teachers as she got older. During her time there, she learned more about religion and finally became a Catholic. After that, she went to Salzburg to join the Nonnenberg Abbey and started her training to become a nun. Maria is shown to be quiet, shy, and kind in The Sound of Music. In fact, though, she was lively and found it hard to follow the strict rules of the convent. Maria later admitted that she made a lot of trouble at the church. In an article from 1980, she said that she was the worst person you could ever think. She broke dishes, talked when she wasn't supposed to, ran around the courtyard singing Gregorian chants, which are supposed to be serious and holy, and even climbed up on top of the convent. In other words, the movie Maria was calm and well-behaved, but the real Maria was full of life and sometimes a little naughty. 9. Maria wasn't sure if she wanted to marry Captain von Trapp. Maria really wasn't sure if she wanted to marry Captain Georg von Trapp. In The Sound of Music, they did get married about a year after she moved in with him as a governess. But in real life, they got married in 1927, more than 10 years before they left Austria in 1938. Maria was a lot younger than Georg. He was 25 years older than her, and they didn't start out as a romance love story. He fell in love with her and wanted her to stay with him as more than just a governess. He wanted her to be a mother to his kids. She agreed to stay with him and do that job when he asked her to. Maria later said she thought God helped Georg carefully pick the words he used. In her mind, she might have said no if he had just come right out and asked her to marry him. Maria loved him, but she didn't marry him at first. She got married to him because she loves the kids and wants to help them. They fell in love with each other over time. Just when you thought you saw them all, here's one more thing the creators didn't quite get right. 8th, the Trapp family did not get past T Mounters. The Von Trapp family left Austria the day before the Nazis shut down the borders, but their departure was not as dramatic as it is shown in the movie The Sound of Music. Interviews and official records kept in the U.S. National Archives show that their escape was pretty calm and well planned. Maria von Trapp, the family's daughter, told Opera News in 2003 that they didn't sneak away by climbing mountains with big bags and instruments, as the movie makes it seem. It was more like they were just going on a trip, so they left during the day on a train. She said they did tell people they were going to America to sing, and they also said they pretended everything was fine, so no one would think they were running away. The family didn't go on their own trip. Reverend Franz Weiner, who led the singing, and Martha Zuckbauer, who was their secretary, were with them. In the movie, Reverend Wasner was changed into the made-up character Max Duweiler, who stayed in Austria. In fact, though, Wasner stayed with the family and helped them with their music career. Their trip began with a stop in Italy. The fact that Georg von Trapp was born in an area that became part of Italy in 1920 made it possible for him to become an Italian citizen. After leaving Italy, the family went to London and got on a ship to the United States. The Von Trapps came to America in the early 1940s and performed music as the Trapp family singers on tour across the country to make money. They finally chose to live in Stowe, Vermont. It was a hit when they opened a 27-room guest house in 1950. The Trapp family cabin is still open for business today, but it has grown into a bigger, more modern building. It is still owned and run by the Von Trapp family's relatives. 7th, the Von Trapp family wasn't as rich as the movie made them out to be. In the movie The Sound of Music, the Von Trapp family is shown to be very rich. They live in a beautiful house with lots of servants and have no money problems. But things were very different for them in real life. The world's economy went into a deep freeze in the early 1930s, a period known as the Great Depression. A lot of people lost their jobs and savings, and the Von Trapp family was no different. Many of their valuables were lost when their bank failed, and they were not as wealthy as they had been before. The family had to fire most of their staff because they couldn't keep up with their big house. To get money to pay their bills, they started renting out rooms in their house. This was a big change from how they used to live. If the Von Trapps wanted to make extra money, they also thought about singing as a way to make a living. As a family, they had always loved singing together. It was harder to do well when there were people watching, though. The father, Captain Georg von Trapp, didn't like the plan very much. He had a daughter named Eleanor, who told the Washington Post in 1978 that having her family on stage almost hurt her dad. She made it clear that he wasn't being snobbish. He only wanted to keep his kids safe and protect their privacy. To get the money, though, the family had to start playing at concerts and gatherings. People loved their music, and they became very famous very quickly. They did so well that they won first place in a big Austrian music competition in 1936. This accomplishment gave them their start as a music group and led to performances in other countries, including the U.S. Around the end of the number 6, they moved to America to get away from the dangers of World War II. In the movie, the kids were called the wrong names. There are 7 kids in the Von Trapp family in the movie The Sound of Music. Each has their own name and personality. In fact, though, their names, ages, and even the number of children they had were not the same. Maria, the real nun, was sent from her order to help with just one child in 1926. The name of this girl was Maria too. They were Captain Georg von Trapp's second eldest daughter. She had scarlet fever, the same terrible illness that killed her mother 4 years before. She couldn't go back and forth to school while she was still getting better. Maria, the governess, was asked to teach her at home. A lot of people are shocked to learn that one of Georg's daughters was called Maria, the same name as the woman he would marry. But none of the kids' real names were used in the movie. They changed all of their names, and even some of their genders, to make the story fit better. This is a list of Georg's real children from her first marriage, from oldest to youngest. Hedwig, Johanna, Martina, Agata, Maria, Vera, and Rert the bear. A 16-year-old girl named Liesel is the oldest kid in the movie. She sings the famous song, 16 going on 17. But in real life, Rupert was the oldest child. He was a man in his late 20s when the family left Austria. He was a doctor already. 5th, the The Von Trapp family loved music very much. In fact, he was the exact opposite, and he really liked music. He and his first wife loved music, and made sure their kids were into it before Maria joined the family. Fourth, Von Trapp and Maria got married before the movie showed. Maria and Captain Georg von Trapp fall in love and get married in the movie The Sound of Music. This happens in 1938, just as the Nazis are taking over Austria. This makes their wedding look really tense, like they want to be together right away before something goes wrong. But that part of the movie doesn't match up with what really happened. In fact, Maria and Georg von Trapp got married on November 26, 1927, a lot longer ago. That was more than 10 years before the Nazis came into Austria. Maria was only 22 years old at the time, while Georg was 47, which is a big age difference. While she was there, Maria became close with all the kids and Georg in particular. Maria wrote in her own works that she didn't marry Georg because she fell deeply in love with him right away. She wanted to stay with them because she loved the kids so much. Over time, her feelings for Georg grew stronger, and the two of them became real-life lovers. The Nazis weren't a threat when they got married in 1927. Hitler hadn't taken over Austria yet, and their wedding had nothing to do with politics or war. They started out happily married and raised the kids together. Later, they had 3 more children of their own. At least a few more years passed before things became dangerous in Austria in the late 1930s. The life of Georg von Trapp's family was at risk because he was strongly against the Nazis. During that time, they chose to leave Austria. They had been married for more than 10 years and had a strong, close-knit family by that time. Let's look at another mistake that might have surprised you that you might have missed. Third, some of the Von Trapp kids were left out of the movie. The Von Trapp family has 7 children in the movie The Sound of Music. They are all different from the real Von Trapp kids, but they all have unique names and personalities. To make the story more interesting for viewers, the filmmakers gave them new names and made up new personalities. The 7 children in the movie were based on the children of Captain Georg von Trapp and Agatha Whitehead, his first wife. When Agatha died in 1922, Georg was left with 7 children and no wife. These people were really called Rupert, Agatha, Maria, Franziska, Vera, Hedwig, Johanna, and Martina. The names they have in the movie, like Laszlo, Friedrich, Louisa, and Gretel, are not their real names. The names and traits of these people were changed so that the story could have more drama, humor, and touching moments. After getting married in 1927, Georg and Maria had 3 more children. These kids have nothing to do with the movie. She was born in 1929, and her name was Ross Marie. Eleanor was born in 1931, and her name is Johannes. John was born in the United States, in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. Before he was born, the Von Trapp family had already left Austria for safety in the United States. The movie probably didn't show these 3 younger kids because it already had a big story to tell and needed to keep things easy to save time. Adding more kids might have made the movie too hard to understand or too long. The real Von Trapp family had 10 children, 7 from Georg's first marriage and 3 more with Maria. The children in The Sound of Music are only 7. Second, Christopher Plummer didn't want to be captain. It was hard to find the right person to play Captain Von Trapp in The Sound of Music. It was a lot easier to find someone to play Maria. Many famous actors, like Bing Crosby, Yul Brynner, Sean Connery, and Richard Burton, were in the running for the part of the captain. But Robert Wise, who directed the movie, really wanted Christopher Plummer to play the part. He had been to Broadway shows by Plummer, and was blown away by how good he was. Even so, Christopher Plummer wasn't interested in the part at first. He turned it down more than once. He didn't like how the character was written, and thought it might not work for him. In the end, Robert Weiss went all the way to London to meet him in person. Weiss told him about his ideas for the movie, and how he thought the captain should be portrayed during their meeting. Meanwhile, he told Playmumber that he and the author could work together to improve the character and make him more interesting. Playmumber finally chose to take on the role after giving it a lot of thought. 21st Century Fox paid $125,000 in June 1960 to get the rights to make a movie out of The Sound of Music. That much money would be worth about $10 million, or $100 in 2016. Besides that, they agreed to give the original authors 10% of the money made from the movie. It was almost the end of the world for 20th Century Fox until The Sound of Music saved the day. In the early 1960s, the movie company 20th Century Fox was having a lot of money problems. A movie called Cleopatra cost a lot of money to make. It was only meant to cost $2 million at first, but problems during production caused the cost to skyrocket to over $44 million. The movie Cleopatra did make some money at the box office, but not nearly enough to cover all of its huge costs. The studio was almost broke. After that, The Sound of Music came out. For a while, Fox wasn't sure how well the movie would do. Musicals weren't as famous as they used to be, and people were afraid that people wouldn't be interested. However, The Sound of Music was a huge hit when it first came out in 1965. People loved the story, the beautiful songs, and Julie Andrews and Christopher Plummer's amazing acts. The movie did so well at the box office that it was the biggest hit of 1965. That wasn't the end, though. Along with Gone with the Wind, which had held the record for 24 years, it became the highest-grossing movie of all time by November 1966. The Sound of Music was such a huge hit that it saved 20th Century Fox from going bankrupt. The company was able to get back on its feet and avoid going bankrupt thanks to the money it made. This moving movie not only became a classic, but it also saved a whole film company that was in big trouble. If you liked this video, please click the next button and share it with your friends.